UIC.
Freedom the people of
Hell yeah.
freedom the people of need. Yeah, yeah. Freedom the people of want. Freedom the people of need. Yeah, yeah. Freedom the people of want. Freedom the people of need. Yeah, yeah. Freedom the people of want. Freedom the people of need. Yeah,
Yeah. Real man a road. Now bow wolf in a tree grand a road. Now bow down to no demon a road. UIC when you see man a road, me say yeah. Real man a road. Now bow wolf in a tree grand a road. Now bow down to no demon a road. UIC when you see man a road. Ready for broke every chain. The when you free up the people, levitate. Jamaica member, you ever great. I feel burn up the fire upon every snake. Me give thanks in every way. God still a look down once see we safe. I see run the road long time. GLP and PMP I sell we out. Till I do the test even though we know the end result.
Hello, good evening, and welcome to another edition of UIC Liberty TV. My name is Joseph Patterson, the president of UIC, and I'm very happy to be with you here tonight to talk about one of my favorite topics, which is really economics, but we're going to be looking at a very, very painful situation which we're all suffering from globally and also locally here in Jamaica. So good night to all of you and welcome. You're in for a treat. Class is in session. So we're going to have a little bit of a study today on the issue of gas prices and prices in general and how government responds to these matters and how you should assess what these politicians are telling you. So let's go right into it. The two parties are at it again. They're trying to take advantage of us by offering sound good but destructive policies. This time it is one copying the bad policies of Barbados Prime Minister Mottley, while critiquing the very system of government scamming they helped the other side to set up and preserve. Meanwhile, the other side too is trying to play us instead of doing the right thing of just cutting out the corruption and cutting the taxes used to pay for it. In the following set of videos, I'm going to be explaining to you clearly what the issues are and how you should analyze it and how you can determine that these two parties are again trying to take us for a ride. And of course, they do this year after year, and they have gotten away with it for 78 years. But he is bent on putting a stop to it. And our approach to doing this is through education. We don't believe in just spouting political rhetoric and just telling you what you want to hear in order for you to vote for us. We want you to become informed, intelligent, aware, so that you can make sound decisions and help those who are not able to understand and analyze to understand so they too can make sound decisions. We know that with this intellectual approach, we're not going to be able to reach everybody directly. But if we reach you, those who are thinkers, those who are independent minded, those who want to learn and understand, if we can reach you, it is our hope that we'll be able to reach the rest of the Jamaican population who may not necessarily be able to fully comprehend and understand what I'm about to share with you. But I believe it's very important, very, very important, that we stop the politics as usual and move ourselves and our country to being thinking people, analytical people, people who can make sound decisions and not just move by emotions. It's very easy for us to tell people, I'm going to give you something for free, for example, and that's very hard to counter something where you have to buy the product. Somebody comes say free this, people just gravitate towards it. And if you say, well, you have to buy this, people are a little bit more hesitant. So it's always easier to sell falsehood than it is to sell truth. But the UIC is committed to sell truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So I hope that you will be able to bear with me tonight and just step back and allow yourself to learn, digest something that may be new to you. Because remember, this is a very touchy topic. When people are going through economic pain, they want easy answers. They want simple answers. They want answers that sometimes border on fairy tale. But the UIC is determined to give you true answers, honest answers that will allow you to make good decisions, even if they have to be tough decisions. So tonight we're going to kick it off with our first video. So first, I want us to understand prices, how prices work in a truly free market economy. And this video is going to explain that, and then I'm going to expound on it a little bit. And together we're going to make sure we have mastered the importance of prices in an economy, the signals prices send to us, how we should think about prices, and not allow ourselves to be manipulated and tricked by either politicians or crony capitalists or socialists or communists, whoever they are who wants to use our emotions to trick us. Let us see through that by having a proper understanding of the economics of prices and be able to effectively understand, analyze, and respond to price change and know why they're changing, what is causing them, and then be able to vote effectively when we understand that. So let's take a look now on our first video this evening, which is entitled Free Market versus Government Intervention, looking specifically at price systems. So let's begin.
What is the role of the prices on the market? What happens when the government interferes with the market and sets a maximum or minimum price at a level other than the free market would? Why is it so important to leave the market? One of the key facts concerning the market economy is that people exchange goods between themselves in order to improve their well-being. Every exchange benefits both of its parties, at least at the outset. Hence, it is crucial for such exchanges to be as effective as possible. Product prices are shaped by market exchanges. Thomas Taylor wrote in this vein, "The prices that emerge in the market are not unexplainable. They always are the result of subjective valuations expressed by individuals who choose to buy or sell or to abstain from either action. The supply and demand curves for a given good are made up of the multitude of individual consumer and producer preferences. Every one of us, by acting as a consumer, creates and adds to his own demand curve for every good. Every one of us determines how many units of a good he or she can buy at a certain price according to, as we said in the Value of Things video, the law of decreasing marginal utility. I will buy 5 apples for a price of $1 each and 2 for $3 each, but I won't buy any for $5 an apple. Your preferences may differ. The people on the market establish a market clearing price for each and every good. Too high a price will cause surpluses, with producers unable to sell their stock of goods. On the other hand, too low a price will cause shortages, with the entire stock sold before all consumer demand could be satisfied. At very low prices, manufacturers may even refuse to sell goods and decide to store them in anticipation of higher prices in the future. How does the market deal with it? Manufacturers will eventually have to lower the price.
Hey, you. Yeah, you. I'm not artificial intelligence, but I could be an animated
Not to have their inventories withheld from the market indefinitely. Consumers in turn, by quickly buying out the undervalued good, will convince the producers to raise the price. Higher price will then satisfy consumer demand by encouraging producers more and possibly influence other producers to enter the market. It is crucial to emphasize that the market clearing price is not one set in stone forever. Any change in supply capabilities or in human preferences will shift supply or demand curves respectively, and then the market will again be looking for a new market clearing price. This process may seem complicated or difficult, but all of this happens naturally in the marketplace. The market regulates itself through the actions of its participants and does not need any external intervention to work well. On the contrary, any intervention causes the market to be less efficient in satisfying human needs. Let's see why. Suppose a terrible drought fell upon some region. Faucets dried out in houses. Small inventories of bottled water were beginning to vanish quickly. Casual shoppers trying to buy water were driven to the brink of violence. Water became so valuable that shopkeepers raised prices from $2 to $10 a bottle, and people still wanted to buy it. The situation lasted for 3 days, after which a representative of the government came and said, "Citizens, we cannot allow for ordinary men to be coerced to pay $10 a bottle of water. They need to live." Today the Congress adopted a law that sets the maximum price of water to $2 a bottle. Given the lowered price, all stocks of water have been exhausted in 2 hours. Now the same people who have limited themselves to buying 1 bottle a day at $10 a bottle now bought 5 bottles, thus making it impossible for some people to get any water. By artificially lowering the price, the government caused an immediate shortage. What then needed to be done to hold back the crisis? The answer is nothing. Higher prices would encourage bottled water producers from neighboring regions where water is abundant, so they would soon begin to supply it. The existing producers would also go to greater lengths to find more water to sell in spite of the drought. The entrepreneurs wouldn't do this because of their benevolence, but merely in order to get ahead of their competitors in supplying their clients with water in a competitive market. In effect, there would be more water, so its price would start to return to normal. The higher price thus allows for more effective distribution of a rare good in times of crisis, reduces its consumption, and by encouraging water companies to invest in production eases things up along the road. The artificial reduction of the price made for an immediate shortage of water for many and play havoc with the chances of escaping the crisis quickly, as producers were discouraged from providing enough water. Now imagine a different scenario. There was a country producing 10,000 bushels of wheat per year. Some of the farmers invested in their businesses. They bought harvesters, tractors, irrigation systems, and significantly improved production efficiency. The rest did not invest and consumed their earnings without second thought. Due to innovations adopted by the former group, the capacity to produce wheat increased to 15,000 bushels at the same price. Then, the increased supply caused the price of wheat to fall. Less innovative group of farmers were troubled by this outcome. Because they did not invest, their costs were unchanged. Given the lowered price, they began to lose money. So they contracted their representatives in Congress and started public protests. Angrily they shouted, "The government has to do something." Their political influence was powerful enough and the government intervened. A minimum price of wheat equal to the original price were initially set. This, however, quickly caused production excesses. Consumers were still willing to buy only 10,000 bushels at the old price. Protest escalated, this time over wheat rotting idly inside grain elevators. The government reacted by imposing a cap on production per square mile to match the level of productivity of the least productive farmers. This, however, was unacceptable to more efficient farmers who invested their money precisely because they were counting on increasing their earnings by increasing production. They were left with innovative and expensive technology that they were now unable to use properly to achieve profitable levels of production. Finally, the government has decided to remove production restrictions and buy all the surpluses. As a result, all consumers had to buy grain at the old price, while additionally paying for excess production in taxes. In the following years, the surpluses of the wheat the government was trying to sell began to pile up, because the demand for it was too low at the offered price. The only thing the government could do other than collapsing the market price was simply to destroy all surpluses or export them at a discounted price, thereby supporting foreign markets at the expense of the domestic economy. What should the government do? Once again, nothing. It should allow prices to fall because it's in the interest of all consumers. Less efficient farmers would have to invest quickly or place their businesses in more capable hands. Every consumer of wheat who would buy it at the lower price would have extra money that could be spent on something more. For example, on products soon to be produced by newly retrained farmers. The wealth of the society would increase. Any intervention in prices is harmful. The same goes for wages. When a government sets a minimum wage, it creates a surplus of people willing to work and unable to find jobs. When a central bank lowers interest rates, it causes a scarcity of real resources. If we want our needs to be met most effectively, then prices should be left to the market.
Okay, now let's talk about what we've just watched a while ago. This should come as a shock to many persons who are watching this because they're used to the idea of thinking that the government is supposed to intervene in prices. The role of government in a free society is to intervene to ensure that nobody is able to use force or fraud to get their way. The role of government is not to intervene to set prices, whatever the prices might be, whether it's labor, whether it's gasoline, whether it's food. It's not the role of government to set prices because when they do that, they create problems in the economy. Now, initially, the good intention that surrounds the idea of government manipulating prices is very, very good politically. When a politician comes out and says, I am going to cap a price, I'm going to make sure there's a ceiling, I'm going to put in rent control so rent cannot go up, or I'm going to put a cap on gas prices so gas prices cannot go up, or I'm going to put a cap on food prices. That sounds great. It sounds beautiful. It sounds like this is God. This is the best politician ever. It's all a lie. It's all fake. What it does, it wins that politician votes. It wins that politicians the affection of those at the time. But later on, when the effects of that bad policy kicks in, people forget they don't even see the connection, what the politician has done to them by doing this. Prices are signals. Prices tells you what is happening in an economy. So for example, if the demand for oil is high, but the supply of oil is low, then the price in a truly free market economy is going to go up. The only other reason why the price would go up if there is no change in demand and supply naturally would be because somebody is manipulating the market. So the true solution is to find the manipulation in the market and address that, because that would be fraud. The true solution is not to simply cap prices, it is to ensure you find the source. But bear with me, because I know this is challenging your mind a little bit, and I'm going to explain more on this, and you'll see clearly by the end of this video why this has to go. Now I want you to look at exactly what Prime Minister Mottley said. I want you to listen to her carefully, read between the lines, put your emotions in check, and just listen to her, what she's saying, and remember she's a politician, and remember what her goal is. Her goal is to win the affection of the electorate. Her goal is to win votes when the time comes. Her goal is not to look at the long-term implications of her decisions and what this really means for the people of Barbados. Her goal is simply to win affections and to win votes. Mark Golding then picked up what she's saying, and he quickly jumps on that and announces the same thing for Jamaica. Now, let me ask you a question. If that was an easy thing to do, wouldn't the Prime Minister of Jamaica right now just cap prices? He would, because he also wants people to love him and wants people to vote for him. The reason why the Prime Minister would not do it, though, is because he knows that there are some serious consequences. So only if his back was against the wall would he do this. But I'm going to show you now, first by looking at what Mia Mottley says, read between the lines, look at her eyes, listen to her words, and then I'm going to show you further why what she's doing is dead wrong and why Mark Golding agreement with what she's doing and wanting to have the same thing done here in Jamaica would be very catastrophic and destructive, and why the Prime Minister of Jamaica, what he's doing and the strategy he's employing. I'm going to show you that as well. And then I'm going to tell you exactly what the UIC would do if we were in government to actually address the gas prices problem. So bear with me and let's watch carefully so you can see the trick and understand the economics behind this. So let me see if I can bring that in right now. 1 second. I'm going to show you now exactly what I'm talking about. So here we go. Here we go. Okay, just a sec. Here we go. Gas cap. Right. This is the one. This is the one we're looking for. I hope you can see that. And I'm now going to share that with you. Take a listen carefully.
With effect from Friday morning, we will have the price of gasoline at the pump capped at the price of $4.48 per liter, and with respect to diesel at $4.03 per liter. That is a reduction in with items from where they currently are, and the benefit of those prices will pass through, we believe, hopefully to all consumers and all people relying on gasoline and diesel to be able to do their work. The world in which we live is extremely volatile, but as possible we are going to protect and shield Barbadians from the majority of what they can otherwise face. And that is the tone of the discussions that I've been having, not just with my ministers, not just with the stakeholders in the social partnership, but also, as I said, with sectoral interests, including the public service vehicle groupings this morning. And we want to make sure that we can continue that posture. We would rather not have been in this position at all. But the reality is that I would not know how to look at any of you all and kick the can down the road. Will I be around when that can down the road is talked? Probably not. We're talking 15 years from now. And I'm talking literally, I mean physically as well. May or may not be. But that does not absolve us from the responsibility of making sure that Barbadians get the benefit of taking the decisions as early as possible, and decisions that are more palatable because they've taken it early enough.
Okay, so there you have it. Now notice that she has appealed to your sense of wanting a leader that really cares, a leader that is looking out for you, looking out for the interests of the people. She doesn't want to kick the can down the road. She doesn't want you to suffer. She wants to take decisions early. She wants to she's going to put a cap on gas prices, and she's hoping, she says, that those benefits will pass through to the consumer. So here is your government now, who is God, because she's about to defy economics. Think about it. She's going to defy economics because she's going to put a cap on gas prices by just declaring it. Now, if she can declare a cap on gas prices for 6 months, why not do it for a year? Why not do it for eternity? Why would any politician having the ability to just by their words pronounce the price on any good is going to be capped at this because I say so? She must be God. Now here's what's going to happen. During the 6 months period, the early stages of that period, yes, people are going to have an artificially lower price of gas. They're going to be very excited, and they're going to give her claps and cheer, and they're going to say, Prime Minister Mottley loves and cares about the people. Mark Golden is also hoping to benefit from that emotional response. Everybody will say he's such a nice and lovely person because here it is, he's saying to the government, put a cap on gas prices. But it's not only Mark Golding that's saying that. You're also going to hear from Philip Paulwell as he explains how terrible the government is, and they should take off $10 and another $10 and then $30 off the price of gas. And he tells you how it can be done now that he's in opposition. He's in opposition, so he's going to tell you how it can be done. He's calling for transparency into the pricing of gas, and he's calling for rollbacks in the cost of gas. And he's able to say all of these things emphatically and powerfully because he's not in government, is he? If he was in government, you'd hear a different tune. And this is the kind of seesaw games they have played with our emotions year after year after year after year. And they divide us and we say, yay, PNP, yay, GLP. And we should just vote for one or the other. But this is all a game. And tonight, I'm going to make clear to you the entire game so you can choose for yourself whether you want to continue to have them play with your emotions, divide us into tribes, as opposed to educate us and ensure good governance so that our prices are truly representative of the market and we can make choices that will create buffers in our country to protect us from shocks in the global society because of what we do here at home. So the next video I want to show you now is Philip Paulwell. Philip Paulwell telling you how indignant he is about, the price of gasoline and what the government should do now to fix that, because, he understands that there's a problem with the pricing mechanism. But I want you to bear in mind, the pricing mechanism he's alluding to and talking about is the very pricing mechanism that his party, when it was in power, put in place together with the support of the existing party that's in power. And they know that both of them will maintain that system, but whenever they're in opposition, they will decry the system and say how they could have done better. But they know that when they're elected, they will do no better. They will make no substantive change to the system because it is working to the interest of those who put them in power. Those who have paid for their elections want this system in place, and it therefore will be kept in place. But you and I must be fooled by their emotional appeals that they love us and care for us, like Mia Mottley said in Barbados, how she cares for her people so much that she wants to give them a 6-month break. My God, if she can give them a 6-month break, why not give them a 12-month break, a 24-month break, a 36-month break, an eternal break from high prices? But again, that's not possible, and I'll show you why. So it's just a gimmick, it's just a game that they're playing with us, and we're going to unravel that game here tonight. So let's take a look at this piece from Paulwell.
The opposition is this afternoon questioning the pricing mechanism for the weekly gas prices by the state-owned oil refinery Petrojam. Opposition spokesman Philip Paulwell says, based on his calculations, something seems to be off. He's calling for transparency in the determination of the gas prices. O'Shane Masters reports.
Within the past few months, gas prices have seen increases of up to $4.50. Global oil prices have been fluctuating between $120 to a low of $94 per barrel due to international crises. This has led to questions from the opposition about why Jamaicans have not seen a significant reduction in prices at the pumps. But just last week, Petrojam announced a reduction in prices of $4.50, the largest decline in months. That has not escaped the opposition spokesman on energy, Philip Paulwell.
So the price of fuel has no reason to be at the level, even with the $4.50 reduction last week. It should be much more. The price should have been reduced by at least $10, with a further $10 to come this week. And in fact, we're supposed to say over the next 3 weeks, reduction over $30.
Mr. Paulwell has therefore issued a warning to Petrojam to present to the Jamaican public the basis on which the recent gas prices have been determined.
I want to say what is the international standard price that they've used, because we use a pricing standard which is the WTI, which is the standard for this part of the world. We also have to relate it to our foreign exchange, and there are some other things to go in the price. I think we need to see the details now, because there was a time when you put $1 on the price of fuel, the whole country go up in smoke. We don't want that at all. We are responsible.
He says transparency is utmost to prevent any upheaval in the country. Over the last 2 months, there have been numerous protests in a number of countries over gas prices. Mr. Paulwell was speaking at the St. James West Central PNP Constituency Conference at the Granville Primary and Junior High on the weekend. O'Shane Masters, TVJ News.
Okay, so clearly, the goodly gentleman really loves and cares about us so much that he wants us to have transparency into the way prices are set. And he attempted to give us a few hints about how gas prices are set in Jamaica, and he's calling on the government to tell us the details of how it is, and he's making some strong recommendations for rollbacks in prices. Now, let me tell you this. He knows very well exactly how the prices are set. And if he wants to, he can put a PowerPoint on screen and he can walk you through step by step exactly how those prices are set. He could show you exactly what's happening, and he could explain to you clearly how all the pieces are working. Now, let me show you a basic example for your understanding. I hope you can see this. If you're seeing this, you would be seeing on screen right now a very basic Excel sheet that I'm just using to show you how the prices are comprised. So if we start with a global market price of about $128, it fluctuates, of course, but let's start with a global market price of $128 coming out of Petrojam with its own adjustments to that price. And we add on to it the special consumption tax. This is the government charging you a special consumption tax. This was supposed to be a temporary tax. It's a special consumption tax, not the regular general consumption tax or GCT. It's a special one. And that comes up to about 29% on top of the 128. And then there is an ad valorem tax, and that comes up to another 13% roughly on top of it's a tax on top of the previous tax, as well as the price coming out of Petrojam. Okay, so that brings you now to the government taking 42% on top of that price coming out of Petrojam. And then the marketing companies add another. I've estimated this based on the prices that I saw at the pump at the time I did this calc. Another 5% or so, depending on how that allocation takes place. That's an estimate of 5% for the marketing companies, and then another 4% for the retailers putting a markup on it, to bring it to a price of $198.14, which is a 55% increase on top of the Petrojam price. The net result of this, factoring in the exchange rate, is that Jamaicans are paying 26% more than their counterparts in Florida. I chose Florida because it's so close to us. Jamaicans are paying 26% more um, per liter of gasoline than their counterparts in Florida. Bear in mind, most Jamaicans don't earn at the level of someone in Florida. They earn way less, but we're paying 26% more than the persons in Florida. And the question is why? Why are we paying 26% more? It's all because of our government. And simply capping the price is not the answer. The answer is deeper than that, and we need to get to the bottom of that answer. And I'm going to do that with you tonight. So let's break it down now. What is the cause of high gas prices? There are two components. One is foreign and one is domestic. I'm going to break down the foreign component. I'm going to break down the domestic component. Earlier, I showed you a breakdown of pricing here in Jamaica, which leads to you paying roughly about 26% more than the average citizen in Florida is paying, which means even though you're earning less than somebody in Florida in real terms, you're paying 26% more than somebody in Florida in real terms, thanks to your government. Yeah, thanks to your government. So let's take a look at this now. What is going on? First of all, the connection of demand and supply still applies even if you have manipulation in the market. So the first piece of manipulation that takes place with oil prices comes from OPEC, the Organization of Petroleum Exporting countries, plus Russia. You know of OPEC plus, which includes Russia. This is a cartel. Normally you would have a monopoly. A monopoly is with one company having a monopoly over an industry. When you have a group of companies or a group of countries, in this case, petroleum exporting countries, coming together and forming a cartel so that they can do price fixing, now you have a cartel that is made up of countries. So these countries, they are indeed manipulating oil prices, right? That's a part of their geopolitical strategy as they try to punish Western countries in retaliation to things they don't like from countries like the US and so on. There's also manipulation coming from the US government. So the US government also manipulates oil prices. For example, the current policy of the Biden administration is to put a cap on local production, that is US production of oil. So they have artificially reduced the supply of oil in order to support and force the Green New Deal that they want to push on the world now, because there's a push to get us to all go green, a push to get us to all buy into the climate change issue. And so they use all manner of devices, including even destroying your purchasing power by pumping free money into the economy to create distortions in the economy and push up inflation and create the conditions they need to shift us to a different form of world order. One of that is to bring in a new form of currency, because they know that the current monetary system that they have is failing or has failed and was about to explode. And by them flooding the market with new money unbacked by any production, they then create the conditions for us to be very uncomfortable, for them to bring forward a solution. And the solution will be a digital currency, which will be a new form of monetary system, similar to the old one, but new in that it will be digital. And it will come with the features that will allow them to better control and manipulate all of us. So that's happening. Another form of global impact on prices is truly global demand and supply. So when you have things like the Russia-Ukraine war, yes, that affects supply. It affects oil pricing speculation, and coupling that with the free money related to the pandemic, which gives oil suppliers free money to do nothing, so they can actually not focus on production and actually pay themselves hefty bonus, have huge profit margins without having to spend time and money and cost on extracting oil. They can lay off workers, which they did, and not have to worry about it because of the free cash flow provided by U.S. monetary policy, which is to highly liquidate the world, drive up inflation, and create conditions for whatever new world order they want to bring in. So that's another component. So OPEC is one. U.S. government manipulation of their own production is another to push policies. The global demand and supply impact of the Russia-Ukraine war, the pandemic money, and so on. There are also some domestic sides to this equation which we need to understand. Yeah. So we're now going to take some time to talk about the domestic side of the equation that also affects pricing. So you have what is called domestic demand and supply. Now, Jamaica does not produce oil, so we do not have any domestic supply of oil. But what we could have done over the years is to develop alternative energies which would reduce our need for and oil, because much of our electricity is driven by oil imports. Just imagine if we had a visionary government like the UICs that would have made us very energy secure by investing in alternative forms of energy, be it biogas, wind, solar, geothermal, hydro. All of these mixes could have been highly developed and made us less susceptible to oil shocks in terms of being totally dependent on that for the majority of our energy needs. So our local demand for it remains relatively strong. We do not supply it, and we have no locally built alternative. So that also causes the price of energy, and particularly in this case, the price of oil to be particularly impactful on Jamaica. Add on top of that natural situation plus government failure there, our own domestic manipulation. So as I explained earlier on, you have the global price, which is manipulated globally and impacted globally by policy decisions of countries like the US and others, and wars. Add on that global price, Petrojam corruption. So Petrojam corrupt practices, all of that cost is dumped on you and me. So that goes into the pricing because it has to cover all of that. Then there's the special tax, the special consumption tax, which was supposed to be temporary, which the government has retained and have not gotten rid of. And so we're paying that extra taxation. You might recall in my my spreadsheet a while ago, you saw that that was accounting for about 29%. Removing that alone would be a big savings to all of us on our gas bill. Then there's the 10% being charged by the government on top of that tax. They're taxing the tax. So they're charging 10% on the tax and 10% on the Petrojam corruption component and 10% on the global price component in order to come up with a price that goes to the marketing companies, which then add on their markup, and the retail companies at the gas pump stations that also add on their markup. And both of their markups are based on the cost they have to pay. So you're paying an excessive markup because of the excessive Petrojam corruption, the excessive special consumption tax, and the tax on top of tax. So the government is the real problem. They don't need to cap the price enough. They just need to get rid of the SCT, the special consumption tax, stop taxing us on top of tax, get rid of the Petrojam corruption, and this will lower the markup as well by the marketing company and the retail companies. So the special consumption tax was supposed to be temporary, and it's made permanent. And both parties have kept that tax in place, and both parties have increased that tax over time. So those are the causes of high prices. So don't bother now, Mr. Golin, to use the idea of the Barbados Prime Minister to talk about capping prices. Let's fix the issues. Let's fix the corruption. Let's fix the extortion that has been built into it so that the Jamaican people can be paying a reasonable price for gasoline. Now, what would a government mandate price achieve? Nothing good. If the government were tomorrow simply declare a mandated price rather than do the fixes I just described, if they were to mandate a price, what would happen? You'd immediately have hoarding, you would have shortages, you would have long lines at the gas station, and you will have a black market emerging. I hate to say black market, and that's just them using the word to manipulate our mind. But you will have a illegal market that would emerge. That market would sell gas at an even higher price than the higher prices you have now because it's an illegal market. It's a shadow market, underground market. So you'll have illegal gasoline, illegal prices. There'll be higher prices. It will be a dangerous environment because now you have made criminals of good people and you have created criminal enterprises now to sell gas illegally because people will not be able to get gasoline at the artificially low price that the government would have mandated. And this is a critical factor. We need to understand this. Yes, it will sound good when the politicians say it. It will feel good in the short term, but over time it will become painful and more painful and even damaging and destructive and create all manner of problems. So we don't want any price fixing on any goods. We want good governance. So what should Jamaica's government do about high prices? By now, you should be seeing clearly that there's a lot that the government can do, and the answer is not in setting prices. The answer is to remove the special consumption tax. Remove that tax immediately and take off that 29% extra cost that you're killing Jamaicans with. This would immediately reduce the cost of gas at the pump. It will help everybody. It will help the taxman. It will help the 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 grocery stores that are buying goods and have to pay higher delivery fees and pass it on to us. It will reduce the electricity bill. All kinds of savings will happen by the government simply stepping out of the way and getting rid of the special consumption tax. Another thing which the government can do and must do and should do is to cut the GCT from 15% to 10%. This will reduce the impact of inflation right off the bat on the without them using any artificial pricing caps. So right now, GCT is at 15%, which means the government is getting a windfall. Because remember, the GCT is being charged on almost everything, importation, all kind of stuff, local goods and services. So with inflated prices, right? So let's say something was $100 before. The government would have been getting $15 on every $100. Let's say the price of that product has now been inflated to $200. The government is now getting $30 where it used to get $15. If the government were to reduce the GCT from 15% to 10%, it would now get $20, which is still higher than the $15 it used to get. So the fact of the matter is, by getting rid of the special consumption tax on gasoline and reducing GCT from 15 to 10%, the government would be truly doing something to help the Jamaican people and getting rid of its bloated, overstated cost right across the board. Secondly, if you think about it carefully, Jamaica suffers from having a government that is too large, too costly, full of corruption, full of waste. If you want good government, and if we had good governance like the UIC has prescribed, the government would shrink in terms of cost to the Jamaican people, and that reduction in cost would be felt in two ways. One, lower cost of government to you, and two, a bump in the productive sectors access to capital, which would create more jobs, expand the economy faster, and make all of our lives better off. I hope you can see very clearly what I've just outlined to you, that the issue is bad governance, and we, the people, must push for the government to do the right things. In summary, basically, the government created a temporary special tax, SCT, and then made that tax permanent. Then it made that temporary tax worse by temporarily increasing it a few times. Both parties have done that. And after that, or during that, they continue to tax that very tax with a 10% tax on top of it. That is a scam. They have scammed us for years upon years upon years. You cannot trust the PNP. They're lying to you. They're deceiving you. They're just as bad as the JLP, who has lied to you and deceived you. And they're simply playing us off each other by getting us to pick sides between the two of them, while they both are ripping us off each and every single day. The longer we keep them in office, the worse Jamaica will become. You're going to see the dollar continue to slide. You're going to see crime continues to increase. You're going to see mental health disorders continue to go up. You're going to see a dirty country, even when they talk about they're going to try to clean it up. They're not committed to we the people. They're committed to their foreign masters and to their local masters, the PSOJ oligarchs that fund their campaigns. Now, we must, as a people, insist that removing the special consumption tax, because it would be a significant savings to us as citizens, especially the poor who are suffering the most. So all of us, let us demand that they get rid of the special consumption tax. That will reduce your cost at the pump by 26 to 29%. Yep. A cap on prices would lead to hoarding, shortages, long lines, and an informal or so-called black market for gas at an even higher price, which would encourage all kind of dangerous behaviors, which would only serve to make conditions in Jamaica worse. I have a few minutes left. I'll now take any questions that you might have for me. I see in the comment section somebody is saying the opposition is not calling for a cap on the prices of petrol. They have been calling for the removal of the special tax. If you try to mislead people, you will lose support. My friends, or my friend here, that's not true. Read the newspaper. The party leader is calling for Jamaica to do exactly what Miss MOTTLEY has done in Barbados, which is to cap the prices. I know, yes, the PNP has also called for the removal of the tax after the UIC called for it. But in any event, when they go into office, they're not going to do it. So the PNP has had many opportunities to remove the tax, and they have not removed it. So if they even call for the removal now, you cannot trust them. They have had 78 years to do the right things, and they have failed. So if you want to trust them still, go right ahead. Another person says PM of Barbados, etc., are all working the same formula, which is a detriment to the nation. Absolutely, Kings and Queens records. The PM of Barbados, all the PMs across the Caribbean, they're all playing by the same playbook, and they're not doing what we need to do, which is to extricate ourselves from the colonial master's system of economics and system of governance, and set up our own, and make sure what we set up is based on the fundamental principle of protecting the individual sovereignty of all of our citizens, making sure that the government is there to protect our rights, and we have a constitution that protects us from government, right? Here in Barbados, says this person, they took nation insurance out of central government and placed it into more commercial investment positions. Okay. Uh, Three Chicken says that's the same thing they do with chicken. Absolutely, they manipulate everything. Another person here, Lion Rule, says, "Why vote for jail for PNP when they keep producing incompetent leaders? Time for change." UIC Jamaica. Thank you, my friend. And I must tell you, I don't necessarily think that all the persons in the two colonial parties are incompetent. Some are incompetent. Some are just following, the corruption plan as presented to them. But I believe there are those who know better, because they've proven themselves in industry, which means they know better. They can think, they can reason. For example, I don't think Mark Golden is incompetent. I think he's probably a very, very smart person. He has proven himself in the private sector, albeit that there might have been some form of corruption involved there, because it's hard to do business in Jamaica without corruption. But I don't think he's necessarily not a smart person. But I'm certain that he has to be a part of the corruption enterprise to be the president of his party. The same thing for the president of the other party. You only become leaders of those parties if you're committed to the system that they advocate and pursue. And that system is what the PSOJ oligarchies pursue. And that's the system of the colonial masters. And they agree with it, and they facilitate it, and they help to lead it and help to enshrine it in Jamaica. So obviously, they cannot be trusted and should not be trusted. Yeah. Renard says, what is your thoughts of the removal of cents as a legal tender, but when you go the supermarket and other places, they still charge you in cents? Yeah, Renard, that is so ridiculous, isn't it? There should not be a case where you have the purpose of money is to be a medium of exchange that is divisible, easily divisible, to allow for transactions at fractional rates. So for a government to say that they're going to remove the cents as a part of the transaction is ridiculous, right? So it's just one more part of the corruption system that we have that we need to get rid of. Thanks for raising it. Any other questions? Let me see if any comments here. Somebody saying vote UIC. Thank you. It's the website where you can see another person has presented the manifesto of UIC. Thank you so much. Patricia says, thanks for explaining how they have been marking up prices to line their pockets. Yes. Another person says, thanks for, got that. This radical new Green Deal is what caused the riots in Sri Lanka and other places in the world. That's correct, Pioneer. That's a part of the problem. Thank you for the comments, Lion Rule. Appreciate that. The climate change agenda is indeed a part of the high oil prices, correct? And by the way, very soon, we won't be able to talk about climate change unless we're just agreeing with the narrative. If we don't agree with the narrative, we're going to be blocked from social media. So get ready, we're heading into a very dark world where what I'm doing right here now will no longer be permitted. If you're not designated as somebody that is saying the right things, they're going to block us all from all of these platforms. If you're saying foolishness, they will allow you. If you're doing all kind of ridiculous things and showing all kind of ridiculous antics, you'll be allowed. But anybody who is doing what I'm doing will be blocked in the not too distant future. So enjoy it while you can. The time is coming when you're not going to be able to enjoy this anymore. I am hoping that we in Jamaica will act fast and make sure that we replace these two other parties with the UIC very, very quickly to protect Jamaica from that direction and make sure that Jamaica becomes the one true country on the planet, while all others go in a different direction. Let us be the shining star at the top of a hill, the beacon of freedom for the rest of the world to admire and to come to. Somebody says they know better, or elected officials know better. They either enter office for selfish gain or they become that way after they come into office. They allow corporations to buy them. Correct. Roy McLean says, what do you think of the digital money? Roy, it is a setup. The central bank digital currency is a setup. They're going to use that to make sure that in the future we must do what they tell us or they lock us out of the economy. Pioneer is asking, are we, I'm not sure, are Jamaica is the first country in the world to have a legal central bank digital currency. Not really, no. But it doesn't matter whether we're the first or the last. What matters is that if we go the route of their central bank digital currency, which we are going and we have gone, and if it succeeds in becoming the norm and we don't change the government and change it, then that currency is going to become the death of our freedom completely. Sean Campbell, we need to make our people more productive and our companies more competitive. That's what the UIC will do. Best political speech I have ever heard, says Dion Campbell. I assume you're talking about this one. Thank you. Olga says, Mr. Patterson, I truly believe that both party leaders do not have the knowledge to build a successful Jamaica. Olga, you could be right. I'm not too sure if it's just knowledge that they lack. I think, they have bought into the system of the colonial masters. They truly, the two parties, right? The two parties that have run this country, they deliberately, in the 1940s and the 1960s, deliberately embraced the colonial master's system of governance. And they have, over that period of 78 years, been training us and guiding us to accept that as the way to govern ourselves. And so they have become probably fully brainwashed into that way. They have also seen where it works for them, a small number of elites in Jamaica. They see where it works for them. Once you're a part of that elite club, the political elite and the PSOJ elite, if you're a part of that elite club, you would have realized how you can let that system work for you and make you rich and wealthy, while the vast majority of Jamaicans remain relatively poor or financially marginalized. I could have joined that system. I could have been a part of that system and say, yeah, and just connect myself with one or the other, or pretend to be neutral and play the game with them. I could have done that, and that would no doubt make me richer and richer. By me creating the UIC and spending so much energy and time trying to build this movement, I put myself at risk, my family at risk, and my finances at risk. But I strongly believe in you, the Jamaican people, that somehow, miraculously, you will wake up by my prompting and you will say, my God, they have tricked us for 78 years. Never again. I'm now going to support the UIC. I'm going to join. I'm going to volunteer, and I'm going to donate. I'm going to become one of the owners of this political party and not allow those that are owned by the PSOJ oligarchs to continue to deceive and trick us and destroy us financially and destroy us socially and destroy us nationally, while a few of them divide us, distract us, and extract our wealth from us. I am hoping and praying and working to ensure that the vast majority of us rally to the UIC and say, let us make this movement, the movement of liberty, the movement of justice, the one that reshapes Jamaica's entire country, a new constitution that fully replaces and gets rid of the colonial one, a school system that is Afrocentric, that helps us to fully understand ourselves and regain our footing and understand why we were enslaved and how to make sure it never happens again. An economy that is bottom up, that lifts the people up from the ground up. A police service instead of a police force that will ensure that as a people, our police not only serves and protects, but respects the people of Jamaica. An army that is fully engaged in border security, so we stop the guns from coming in. We stop the illegal guns and ammunition from coming in. A tourism product that embraces all Jamaicans, that is island-wide as opposed to all-inclusive little resorts, but it's island-wide, so the tourism dollar spreads throughout the entire country. Youth employment program that ensures all of our young people leaving school now who are not equipped to go on to further studies do get into the workforce as an apprentice and learn the skills they need as quickly as possible to become very productive and stay away from the gangs. Focus on a top-down system of fighting crime, so we get rid of the kingpins and the gatekeepers who are defending criminals, who are protecting criminals, who are creating criminals, and who are benefiting from crime. Deal with those first so that we can eliminate that festering mechanism that is causing the crime problem. If we can do that, if the Jamaican people can see clearly what the UIC is offering and join me and the rest of the team, volunteer, donate, join, volunteer, and donate so we can get this done. Step forward, become a candidate wherever you are. Step forward and become a candidate so that we can have 63 quality persons to represent all constituencies and 228 quality persons to represent the municipal division. We can't do it without you. You sitting in the sideline and watching and hoping is not enough. You have to get involved. All of us must become activists. All of us must become active politically, because if we don't become active, the worst among us will be active like they are now, and they're going to ruin our country and make our lives miserable and rob our children and grandchildren of a decent future. Let me see if I missed any questions while I was blobbing along here. Okay. All right. Nice comments here. Good night, Mr. President. Thank you for visiting St. Thomas over the weekend. My pleasure, Maurice. What about a vocational college for young people? We already have Art Academy and so on. It's now just to make sure that they work and so on. Ken Francis said he's fully active. That's good. Thank you very much for that. Okay, well, thank you all again for being here with me tonight. I have to go now. See you again soon. And remember, one UIC, one Jamaica, we're stronger together. Please join uicjamaica.com, volunteer, donate. We want 1,000 donors giving $25 a month. If we have that, we'll have the funds we need to win the next election. Not as much as the others, but just enough to make sure we can win. Thanks again for your support. Have a good night.